Okay, welcome. This is Business 130. This is macroeconomics, and this is the first week. So every week I'll do a brief video, maybe 10, 15 minutes depending, but we'll discuss the top main topics of the week. And so watch that because we'll cover some of the important parts of the material. The first 2 weeks we'll do only one chapter per week. After that we'll do 2 chapters per week. So that means we'll start moving fast. I wanted to give you a little bit of easing into the material at first to understand the rhythm of the course. So please don't fall behind from the start. And let's see what we do this week. So when you go to Blackboard, it looks something like this, but not exactly because this is the instructor's view, so some items are not visible to you. But the way you want to do this, besides looking at your grades, which I think is down here, you have a grade option somewhere here, but you want to look at coursework. That's your main link. You do coursework, you click here, before the previous page, you could see the announcements. And so I'll post weekly announcements there, maybe more, so check the announcements more often. But here you can see the main things you want to start with, and mainly you can have access, I believe, here to the course, to the syllabus, the page, information about me, etc. But every week you will see something like this. This is week 1. I think I posted up to week 3. The other ones will be visible to you later, so you can see week 4 is written from students. But this one, you go in, you click, and you'll see what's due. What's due this week. You can see that the topics to be covered. This is more than this is 2 chapters, not 1. I'll have to change that. But we cover the important ways to think in economics. Okay, then you have here material and resources. This is actually, I need to delete that because it didn't upload correctly. But in any case, you have here the chapter. You click here, takes you to the textbook, and you can read the chapter. Then there is the PowerPoint presentation of the chapter. Okay, and then when you go back, you will here and you do assignments and projects. That's the stuff that is due. That's also on McGraw-Hill on Connect. These are little assignments. Plus there is a discussion board which you will need to post by Sunday. Now, let's look quickly at this week material. So this week material is important because it sets up the tone for how to think like an economist. First principle, there are 3 principles. The first principle is the scarcity principle, meaning there's not enough of everything for everyone, so decisions need to be made. You need to decide what you want to do with your resources. You have limited amount of resources, very big needs and wants. And so what do? That means when you make a choice to do something, you need to give up something else. And that brings us to the second one, which is the cost-benefit principle. The cost-benefit principle says that you want to evaluate the cost and benefits of your decisions in order to maximize your return. Okay, and so if you want to have the most benefit, you need to look at net benefit, because you might achieve a lot in terms of revenues or returns, but it might cost you way more than what you achieve. And so that's not a feasible choice, right? And the last one is the incentive principle. Incentive principle means that we all face incentives and we react to incentives. And so if our incentives change, our decisions will change. And so if our choice is study an hour or go to work for an hour, maybe there is an exam tomorrow, and so you want to really study because the benefit is greater. But maybe after the exam, you get a raise, and tomorrow the boss says, come on in for an hour and I'll get paid double because I really need you. Then you can see how the incentive has changed. Then in that case, you might decide to go to work instead of study, right? So incentives important. And so given this, you can see how this applies to everything. So here there are examples where scarcity is involved, and then the decision-making process applies to everything, big topics like global warming and political elections, to smaller like your own career choice, or even to buy a bottle of water today, buy the water or not. Okay, so you do this cost-benefit analysis, and there are slides I show this. You evaluate it too. You want to look at the extra, the cost benefit principle. So that means the marginal, the extra, and we'll see an example of that. But the way you apply this is simply you want to look at the benefits. And we'll see in a minute that there are pitfalls of thinking like that. But for example, if you think about, you find information, you want to buy something, and you find that their item has $10 off in a store far away, right? So the question here is, how far should the store be for you to say, no, I'll pay $10 more for the item that I really need because it's not worth for me to go, right? You are not just going because it might be too far. It might involve you taking an airplane and then spend a lot of money, way more than $10. So you are not going to do that, okay? And so that's an important principle that needs to be followed. And so in the end, what you want to have benefits and costs, and the surplus, which in business could be called profit, is the difference between total cost and total benefits. Total benefits minus total cost. But you want to look at, although you want to look at the total, the decision where to stop is done at the margin, okay? And so this is the idea of step by step. Every extra increment will have a change in your outcome, in your benefits, and a change in your costs. And so you will have to look at these changes to evaluate where is the best place to stop. And this cost is called opportunity cost. So opportunity cost, it's very important because it's not necessarily only a cost you pay out of pocket, but it's also a cost that you might, it's a lost opportunity. That's why it's called opportunity cost, right? So if you decide to study for an hour, you really don't have any cost, because you don't pay out explicit cost, you don't pay anything to anybody, but you might lose the income because you're not going to work for that hour. And so if your pay is $15 an hour, then your opportunity cost is $15. You don't pay the $15, but you miss the opportunity of making $15, okay? And so there's more stuff about economic models and pitfalls. These are very important. And the pitfalls are usually measuring cost and benefit as proportions instead of absolute amounts. So remember, if I say, would you want to drive 1 hour to save 50% on an item? You cannot say necessarily yes. You have to say, well, it depends. Depends on what? Or what the absolute amount is. Because if I can save, if something costs 2 cents and I can get it somewhere else for 1 cent, I save 50%, it's great, but it's not worth driving an hour. If the thing costs $1,000 and I can save 50%, then I can save $500, then maybe it's worth going, right? So you gotta be careful. And then the important pitfall is ignoring implicit cost. So you want to make sure that you understand that some costs do not really come out of your pocket, but are lost opportunities. And then marginal thinking. So we'll look at an example of this marginal thinking and then see if it makes sense for you. So when you do marginal analysis, you want to look at changes. Okay, so here is an example. You have the SpaceX rockets. You can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 launches. This is the total cost in billions of dollars. And the result of the cost goes up. The average is pretty simple. It's simply total cost divided by number of launches. And then there is the marginal, which is the key one. And so this one is the change. When I go from 0 to 1, my total cost goes up to 3 billion. When I go from 1 to 2, 7 minus 3, my total cost goes up to 4 billion. And you can see here, right? So this is the way to read it. You want to look at changes and so on. So if my revenue benefit, in this case revenue, say people pay you to launch a satellite, is 6 billion, how many launches should you do? Notice that if you make 3 at the third launch, you will make 6 billion for a cost of 5, so it's worth it. Should you make the fourth launch? No, because it costs you 8 million and the benefit is 6 billion. Although in average, you still seems to make money, but you end up having less total profits. So if you think about it this way, if you calculate totals, 6 times 4 is 24, is still profits. You make 4 billion in profits, but you make more profits by doing 3 launches because 6 times 3 is 18, 18 minus 12 is 6. So you're actually reducing your total profits if you go to 4, right? So that's why you need to think about on the margin. And then there are other things that they discuss. For example, like the difference between micro and macroeconomics, and then this course is macro, so we mostly look at the big picture things, not at the small single market things, although there's a chapter on supply and demand that also applies to that. And then basically, the study of economics is the study of choices, what you can do, right? And then they'll tell you examples of why it's everywhere. Everywhere you make economic decisions, no matter what you do. And then there is a section, like a little math section at the end, where you need to understand, remember algebra. So if you're not familiar, if you don't remember, then you need kind of to review, use this to review. You want to find, able to find the slope of lines. You need to be able to graph lines and calculate those kind of little changes, intersection between two lines, etc. Okay, so you need to do that. And then again, send me an email if you have any questions. I'll try to answer as quickly as possible, but I'll make one of these videos every week. And also if you have questions and if you have specific problems you want me to address in a short video, send it to me and I'll do that. Thank you. And before I make the video too long, I will see you soon.